Hi folks, I hope everyone's well and you're very welcome to another Leaving Cert History prediction video here at ExamRevision. So we're going to go through some basic predictions for the Leaving Cert History exam in 2024. So before we go into it, guys, just going to talk a little bit about the ExamRevision platform, okay? So what ExamRevision is it's an online grinds platform and everything is pre-recorded. All right. So let's say you want to subscribe and you pick Leaving Cert History as a subject. You'll get the entire Leaving Cert History course broken down into small bite-sized videos, about 10 or 15 minutes. As well as that, there's loads of other resources that come along with those videos that I'm going to show you now. And I suppose the idea is that you can study Leaving Cert History or any subject in your own space and in your own time at the pace you want to. You can pause videos, rewind them, do the activities when it suits you in a place and time that suits you. Okay. And financially, really, really good value for money in comparison to, say, getting your own grinds teacher. It's much, much, much more, I suppose, financially beneficial to go with the exam revision packages because of the low cost of them. Okay. We currently have a deal on it at the moment. So if you sign up for a subscription and you use the code 2024 tips at the checkout, you'll get 10% off. So what do you get when you sign up for a package? Well, I mentioned about the videos, so you get the bite-sized video tutorial grinds. You also get PowerPoint presentations covering the entire course. You'll get H1 standard notes for a senior cycle and distinction notes for a junior cycle. You'll get exam and mock paper questions. So there's a dedicated exam building section where you can create your own exam, and that also comes complete with the marking scheme for that exam too. You get access to simple self-correcting quizzes, and there's also a reflection log and smart adaptive technology to guide your learning as well. So the idea here, guys, is that there's such a bank and depth of resources that will suit every kind of learner. Okay, you've got your videos, your notes, you've got an activity book as well. So there's really something for every type of learner to get, I suppose, the proper full experience. So at junior cycle level, okay, you get Irish, English, maths, history, science, geography, business, and home economics. Now that mightn't be of much use to anyone here who's doing senior cycle, but you might have a sibling or a friend or a cousin or something who is looking to do junior cycle grinds. At senior cycle then, there's Irish, English, maths, higher and ordinary, history, geography, ag science, physics, applied maths, biology, chemistry, business, economics, French, Spanish, music, and PE. So a really, really broad array of Leaving Cert subjects. And again, these subjects, guys, are all taught by subject experts, okay? So you've got a lot of teachers here who've maybe written books on their subject. You have other teachers that maybe also lecture in university, so they actually train teachers. So they're like, you know, you've got probably some of the best teachers in the country here at your fingertips, you know, to take their courses that they've designed for you. So again, guys, it's a platform that has gotten really, really positive reviews from students that have used it. Okay, so you can just see some of them there. Not only do students use it, but teachers often buy subscriptions as well. Because as a teacher, if you're looking to teach a class, if you buy a subscription with ExamRevision, you'll get all the materials you need, all the notes, all the PowerPoints, all the, you know, activity books, quizzes, plus your exam building section. So even for teachers, it's a really complete platform that many teachers utilize and use those classroom materials to teach their own class in person in school. Okay, guys, so without further ado, we are going to jump into some tips for Leaving Cert History. So guys, these tips are going to focus on the documents-based question, the USA and the wider world, and the pursuit of sovereignty and the impact of partition. Okay, now, regardless of what topic you're doing, and even if you're not doing one of the topics I mentioned there, okay, a vital thing about Leaving Cert History is to know your case studies. Really, really important, okay? So regardless of your topic, you should know each topic's got 3 case studies. You should know these inside out, back to front, upside down, all right? And I'm going to go through a few reasons why it's important to know these case studies really well now in my next slide. So guys, in front of you, you'll see the exam questions on the USA and the wider world. So these ones here at the top, okay, these are from, apologies, these are from 2023, so last year's Leaving Cert exam, and these ones are from the year before, okay? So again, case studies, why are they important? Well, we're going to go through some of them. So in the USA and the wider world, we have 3 case studies. We have the Montgomery bus boycott, we have Lyndon B. Johnson and the Vietnam War, and we have the moon landing. Okay, so where do these appear here? Well, in question 1, how did one or more of the following affect the US? McCarthyism, the military-industrial complex, the anti-war movement. So in a small way here, the anti-war movement, that's closely linked to the Vietnam War. So that's your Vietnam War case study coming in. Question 2, which posed the greater threat to US security, the Korean War, the Cuban Missile Crisis? Now, there's actually, the case studies don't really rear their head there at all, but that's actually a nice question anyway, nonetheless. Question 3 then, what attempts were made to tackle racial inequality in the US from 1945 to 89? So a big part of that essay, maybe 60 to 70% of that essay could technically be on the Montgomery bus boycott, okay? Which that's a case study that can come up as its own question, but it can also be used to answer the majority of this question. Now, just be careful, guys. Look at the date parameters. So you need to have some events kind of from sort of 1945 up until the sort of 1970s and 80s. Like, don't just answer on the bus boycott, because the bus boycott took place across, it was just over a year long in 1955. You need to talk about stuff that happened later on as well, okay? But that's just an example of how the bus boycott could make up the bulk of that essay. And then question 4 then, yeah, moon landing. So that is just a direct case study there. Okay, so if you know your moon landing essay, you know, that's just, you can literally, you have that there, you're sorted for that question. Okay, now we're going to look at 2022, guys. Okay, so this one here, again, where do the case studies appear here? So Harry Truman, again, that is no case study present there. Question 2, how effectively did the US tackle problems posed by Cuba and or Vietnam? So again, guys, the Vietnam War case study, you can write that entire question on Vietnam if you want, okay? The background of the war, how America got involved, and then the problems they encountered along the way, okay? So problems fighting the Viet Cong, problems with the, I suppose, anti-war movement at home, okay? That entire question can be answered on Vietnam. So make sure you know Vietnam inside out, back to front. Vietnam, guys, you'll see him later on in the video, but I'd say there's a good chance it'll be on the paper. Henry Kissinger, for example, died 50 years ago. Sorry, he died actually. What was it? He died there this year. Okay, so there's a good chance he'll appear. The Vietnam can appear on the paper. Okay. 3, what was the contribution of Martin Luther King and or Muhammad Ali? So again, guys, Martin Luther King, he plays a prominent role in the bus boycott. So there you go, guys. You know, you can definitely talk about him and his role in the bus boycott in that question. So that's another case study rearing its head. And then question 4, again, yeah, space. All right. So again, that's pretty much the majority of that question will be focused on your moon landing case study. Okay. So there we can see, guys, there's 3 areas, okay, in the last 2 years where the case studies have reared their head. So they're so important to know. Okay, guys, so now going to look at our case studies from the pursuit of sovereignty and the impact of partition. Again, these are from the last few years. So last year, firstly, what are our 3 case studies? So we have the Anglo-Irish Treaty negotiations, with the Eucharistic Congress, and we have the Belfast Blitz. Okay, so we can see the first question here. Okay, it doesn't rear its head here at all, but that's actually a nice first question regardless. Question 2 then. During the period 1920 to 45, how well did the government of Northern Ireland respond to challenges? So again, guys, definitely quite a large part of that question could be answered on the Belfast during World War II. Again, the date parameters go to 45 and it focuses on Northern Ireland. Question 3 then, so doesn't really rear its head in question 3, but question 4 then is your Eucharistic Congress. Okay, so you can see there, question 4, guys, the whole question is on the Eucharistic Congress, and then you can also discuss a little bit about the Irish language as well. So there's the case studies there, rearing their head in 2 questions. Okay, if we go back 2 years, then, so what was the contribution of the 2 of the following in the pursuit of sovereignty? Arthur Griffith, Michael Collins, and Countess Markievicz. So guys, absolutely, the case studies rearing their head again here. Sure, we know that Arthur Griffith and Michael Collins were 2 of the delegates sent to negotiate the Anglo-Irish Treaty. So there you go, your Anglo-Irish Treaty can play a big part in that question there. So again, question 2, during the period 1920 to 45, how effectively did the government of Northern Ireland manage the economy and or threats to the security? So again, guys, the Belfast Blitz will play a huge role in that question there. Question 3, not so much. Question 4, how was cultural identity promoted in Ireland, North and South, in one of the following areas? One or more of the following areas: language, religion, education. Again, guys, that's your Eucharistic Congress there, playing a big role in that one. Okay, so we can see, guys, just again to reiterate the real importance of the case studies. Know all your case studies for all your topics, and you'll really be like, that's more than half the battle. That's really, really important. Okay, guys, so then we're going to look at some specific tips for your exam in June. Okay, the first thing we're going to look at is a documents-based question. All right, the DBQ. Now the DBQ, guys. Okay, so this year's DBQ is dictatorship and democracy, and the 3 topics that can come up are Stalin show trials, the Nuremberg rallies, and the Jarrow March. Now, the big thing that stands out to me here, guys, is the show trials. The show trials actually have never been examined at DBQ level before. So they've never been part of a documents-based question in the Leaving Cert History paper in its current form. So that tells me that there's a very strong chance it's going to come up. Okay, but like, again, guys, I'm not going to turn around and tell you to neglect the other 2. You must know all 3, because they could throw a serious spanner in the works. Because it's almost too obvious to come up, they might do something different. They could put up any of the other ones. Okay, so I would really, really focus on knowing the 3 of them, but with a special focus on the show trials, because it hasn't come up yet. And look, if I was to put a bet on it, I would say it is going to come up. Okay. Okay, then, guys, for the pursuit of sovereignty and the impact of partition. Okay, so the first one is the Eucharistic Congress, that I believe will come up in some way, shape, or form. It's come up every year for the last maybe 6 or 7 years. It's very, very popular. It's also 75 years since Ireland became a republic, which means it could be asked in a particular way or worded in a particular way. Like say, for example, what attempts were made for Ireland to kind of, I suppose, reinforce the Catholic religion or something. But it's just so frequent. I do think it's going to come up again. Okay. Second question then I would bank on is the impact of World War II in the north and south of Ireland. Okay. Again, there's a few key anniversaries coming up with World War II. So it's 85 years this year since the start of World War II. It's also 80 years since D-Day. So I'd say there's a very strong chance a World War II based question will come up. Okay. So make sure, again, your case study inside out and back to front there. All right. And then I suppose another question that's probably going to come up, I'd say, is on the Anglo-Irish Treaty and Civil War. Now, why I believe this is quite common or quite a high chance of coming up is because 2022 and 23 would have been the 100-year anniversary of the Irish Civil War. Yet a question on this in Civil War did not appear in those years. So I just believe that it's just like it's due for that question to come up. Okay, so I would definitely say the Anglo-Irish Treaty and Civil War are quite important to know there. All right. Again, that's linking in with your case studies. I suppose another question, there could be a question related to language, guys. It's 100 years this year since Irish was made compulsory in schools. So your Irish language acts and stuff could come up in a way, or they could come up maybe as part of a Eucharistic Congress question. It could come up as maybe a choice in the Eucharistic Congress question. So guys, there are my 3, I suppose, predictions for the pursuit of sovereignty and the impact of partition. So with the USA and the wider world then, guys, predictions. So firstly, race relations. Race relations, it just comes up so often. So again, I would know there, obviously know my Montgomery bus boycott inside out, back to front. And I would also know my other few things with the race relations as well. Your Freedom Riders, your lunch counter protests, the Little Rock Nine. No, look, guys, at stuff for Native Americans and Chicanos as well, towards like, because a lot of the time this race relations essay comes up and the day parameters are 1945 to 89, and students rarely put in material beyond the 1960s. So they actually lose quite a lot of marks in their overall evaluation. So you need to put in some information, you know, kind of at least mention it, stuff that happened in the 70s, and if you can, in the 80s as well. All right. Next question I would say that could come up is, all right, a question on a president. Hasn't really come up in quite a while, but possibly a question where you have to compare the presidency of two presidents, for example, Truman and LBJ, and maybe know how the presidency developed. So a common question is like from Roosevelt to Reagan, you know, the American presidents always act for the good of the country, sort of thing. Okay. So that's quite that'll be one. Again, it hasn't come up in a while. It is a tricky one. It's not easy, but I would definitely try and know that as much as I could there. Okay. 3 then, again, technology, again, the case study. It hasn't really come up. A question on technology alone hasn't come up in quite a while. So that's not just moon landing, guys. That is information technology. That is missile technology. That's conventional weapons. That's computers. So you need to know all those things. So I'd know the moon landing case study. I'd also know about missiles, computers, microchips, and weapons and things like that. Okay. Now, other ones, a couple of other ones here that could be possible I have that haven't maybe come up is the Cuban Missile Crisis. That could come up in some way, shape, or form, because it's 75 years since the nuclear test ban treaty was signed. Okay. Another one that could come up could possibly be Vietnam. Okay, so we mentioned it's the Vietnam War. It's Henry Kissinger died this year. Okay, sorry, in November of this last year, I should say. So that could be a reason. But again, you know, it could come up as part of a wider question, like, you know, what was the importance of U.S. foreign policy in Vietnam, Cuba, Berlin, for example. Okay, so guys, they are my predictions for Leaving Cert History. The very final thing I want to mention to you guys is ExamRevision are running 1-day intensive revision courses for the month of May. Okay, and again, these are online live courses delivered by ExamRevision teachers, expert teaching, exam technique. You get H1 notes. They're live, so you can interact with a teacher. You can ask and answer questions. There'll be a focus on the most common topics, so things that are predicted, and you'll probably get a bit of an insight into more exam questions. And a last reminder, guys, if you do want to join any of our courses, you can use the code 2024TIPS to get 10% off a complete revision package. Okay, guys, thanks a million for tuning in. I hope you found the video beneficial, and the very best of luck to everybody sitting their Leaving Cert exams next month.